who you know from Mars?
Yeah.
Get out. Get out.
Hello, cinephiles. If you don't have time but loves a good story, you have come to the right place. Let's get started without wasting any time. The movie starts with Nathaniel Shepard, the head of the Genesis company, reading a childhood letter in which he dreams of colonizing Mars. After many years and a lot of resources, he has established a sustainable base on the Red Planet. His goal is for his company to pioneer a long-term colony on Mars. Next, we meet Sarah Elliott, the leader of the Mars expedition. She and her crew will spend the next 4 years on Mars and are hailed as heroes. Their mission is historic. They aim to be the first to not only visit Mars, but to live there. On launch day, her crew is sent into space to board a spaceship that will take them to Mars. The launch is flawless, and the entire company is ecstatic. 2 months later, Sarah experiences morning sickness and discovers she is pregnant. Everyone is shocked. The baby will be born shortly after arriving on Mars, having developed in zero gravity, which is unprecedented. The spaceship cannot turn back and must complete its journey. Nathaniel decides to keep the pregnancy a secret from the media. Soon, Sarah gives birth on Mars but tragically dies shortly afterward, devastating Nathaniel and the crew. When discussing their options, they realize the baby, born in space, cannot survive on Earth and will not survive the return trip as an infant. The Genesis board members, including NASA representative Tom Chen, discuss their options. Despite Nathaniel's offer to fly to Mars himself, they decide to keep the child's existence a secret to maintain their reputation. Losing support would mean losing funding and, ultimately, the child. Silence is the only way to ensure his survival. This decision frustrates Nathaniel greatly, and to vent, he simulates flying to space alone. However, he lacks the skills and experience to actually fly a spacecraft. 16 years later, the Mars colony has become a thriving community. We meet Gardner Elliott, the boy who grew up in space. Surrounded by scientists, Gardner has become exceptionally smart. He regularly helps around the facility, with a robot as his only companion in the produce section of the colony. We also meet Kendra Wyndham, who has become a mother figure to Gardner. They have the closest relationship among the astronauts, and she aims to train him to be an indispensable asset, even though no one knows he exists. Later, Gardner sneaks through the ventilation system with a map he took from his robot friend. Using it, he goes through his mother's old belongings in storage and finds some of her things. Among them is an old recording of her with a mysterious man. They seem very close, playing pranks on each other. Gardner assumes this man is his father and prints out a picture of his would-be parents. Excited by his discovery, he starts an online chat with Tulsa, a girl from Colorado. Gardner and Tulsa chat regularly. Tulsa thinks Gardner is just a homebody who can't leave his house to visit her. They bond because both feel like outsiders. Tulsa lives with her foster father, and Gardner technically doesn't exist. Their shared experience of being parentless brings them close. One night, Gardner watches a romance movie left by a German scientist. It's about an angel falling in love with a human girl, mirroring his feelings for Tulsa. On Earth, Tulsa plays the piano but is interrupted by boys who regularly bully her. She escapes on her motorcycle. When she gets home, she finds her foster father passed out from drinking and late for his crop dusting job. To avoid losing more jobs, she wakes him up and motivates him to work against his will. On Mars, Gardner sneaks out to visit his mother's grave. Frustrated by his confined life and his mother's death, he drives recklessly, resulting in a crash that nearly kills him. Kendra rescues him just in time. Back at the facility, she scolds him, but Gardner doesn't care. She then reveals that his mother's grave is just symbolic. Her ashes were spread over the Pacific Ocean. On Earth, Nathaniel gets a visit from Tom for the first time in 16 years. After Sarah's death, Nathaniel became reclusive and disappeared from public life. Gardner's rebellious act sparks a debate among the companies. Kendra and Tom decide that bringing Gardner to Earth is the right thing to do. Nathaniel hesitates, worried about the extensive surgery Gardner would need to survive on Earth and the public reaction to the mission. Despite his concerns, They move forward with the plan and start preparing Gardner for life on Earth. Gardner excitedly tells Tulsa he's coming to visit her and begins training for Earth's gravity. He also studies old romantic movies to understand romance better. Soon, Gardner embarks on his maiden voyage to Earth with Kendra. He asks about her life, and she shares that she can't have children and doesn't want any. He urges her to help him find his father, but Kendra informs him that his father is still unknown. As Gardner travels to Earth, Nathaniel grows increasingly anxious, constantly monitoring Gardner's trip on his computer. Eventually, he goes to NASA and insists to Tom that he must meet Gardner. When Gardner arrives on Earth, he sees the ocean and the sky for the first time. Gardner undergoes a series of tests and is closely monitored. Despite being on Earth, not much changes for him initially. When Gardner and Nathaniel meet, they bond over questions about each other's home planets. Their conversation is interrupted by Kendra, who comes to see Gardner. Nathaniel remains anxious about Gardner's well-being and orders more tests. Gardner takes this as a sign they want to send him back to Mars, and seizes the first opportunity to escape the facility in a delivery truck. Kendra approaches Nathaniel about the search for Gardner, revealing that Gardner needs a heart transplant and must be available if a suitable heart becomes available. Now, out in the world, Gardner experiences human civilization for the first time. He nearly gets run over, trades sunglasses with a homeless man, enjoys the feeling of rain on his skin, and takes a bus to Colorado to visit Tulsa. Nathaniel and Kendra, aware of his friendship with Tulsa, begin efforts to cut him off. At Tulsa's high school, Gardner gets strange stares from other kids. When he finally finds Tulsa, expecting a warm welcome, she slaps him instead. She hasn't heard from him in the 7 months it took to travel to Earth and thought he ghosted her. He assures her it was unintentional, and she hesitantly forgives him. In her class, Gardner follows Tulsa and interjects during the lecture. Raised by scientists, he easily answers questions, but doesn't understand the social dynamics of a classroom. He even uses the emergency eye wash station to get himself wet. When he and Tulsa finally talk, he asks for her help finding his father. Still skeptical about his claims of being from Mars, she agrees and takes him home to her farm. At the farm, Nathaniel and Kendra find Gardner with Tulsa. They beg him to come with them, but he runs off. Tulsa pilots her foster father's plane to help them escape. Their flight is cut short when an oil leak forces them to make an emergency landing on a freeway, crashing into a barn that catches fire. Nathaniel and Kendra witness the crash and initially think Gardner died. When they learn Gardner survived, emotions boil over. Nathaniel blames Kendra, while Kendra blames Nathaniel. Meanwhile, Gardner and Tulsa steal a car and hit the road together. When Tulsa asks about his origins, Gardner tells her the unbelievable truth. Understandably, Tulsa doesn't believe him and yells at him for lying, to which Gardner can only apologize sheepishly. After venting her frustration, she decides he must be insane, but continues to help him find his father. They stop at a diner and hijack a woman's tablet to research Gardner's mother. A ring from his mother's belongings points to a shaman in Arizona who might have married his parents. With the police close behind, they run off before getting caught. Nathaniel and Kendra, still searching with police help, find the stolen car, now occupied by others. Nathaniel, feeling guilty about subjecting Gardner to life on Mars, vents his frustration to Kendra. She tries to comfort him, but is interrupted by a NASA doctor's call. Gardner has elevated troponin levels, which are killing his heart. Nathaniel knew this and insists they must find him soon. Unaware of his condition, Gardner enjoys life on Earth, marveling at everything. Gardner and Tulsa visit a store, where Tulsa plays and sings an original song on a piano, Amazing Gardner. With new clothes, they continue their journey with Nathaniel and Kendra close behind. On the road, Gardner, driving, tells Tulsa she's beautiful. She tries to teach him social cues, but his directness makes her blush. That night, they camp by the road with a campfire. Tulsa puts on music, and they become intimate. Gardner, new to the feeling of love, grows even closer to Tulsa. They make love by the fire and fall asleep in each other's arms. The next day, Gardner and Tulsa arrive at the reservation of the shaman who married Gardner's parents. A woman, thinking they want to get married, takes them to him. The shaman explains that he married Gardner's mother years ago, and that the other half of the ring belonged to Gardner's father, though he can't provide the father's name. However, he has a check with Sarah's address. A quick Google search confirms it matches the house from the video Gardner found. Their excitement is cut short when Gardner starts feeling the effects of the troponin in his blood. Despite this, he urges them to continue. They leave the shaman's house, celebrating amid a cloud of confetti, pretending to be newlyweds. On the road, Gardner's health rapidly declines. To show him the world, Tulsa takes him to Las Vegas. Gardner is unimpressed by the fake monuments and eventually passes out, alarming Tulsa. At the hospital, Tulsa struggles to provide the doctors with Gardner's background information. After seeing Gardner's X-rays, she finally believes his stories about being from Mars. Despite Tulsa's objections, Gardner insists on continuing their journey, believing it's futile to prolong his life on Earth. Nathaniel and Kendra, tracking Gardner's movements, hurry to his destination. On the way, Gardner tells Tulsa that she loves the world more than she admits, as evidenced by her music. When they arrive at the house from the video, Gardner feels it's the best place he's seen so far. Inside, they meet the man from the photo. However, when they ask about the photo, the man denies being Gardner's father. Tulsa presses the man for more information, and he reveals that he is Sarah Elliott's brother, and the house was left to them by their parents. Gardner, however, is out of time. He accepts his impending death, telling Tulsa that while he couldn't choose where he was born, he can choose where he dies in the ocean, where his mother's ashes were spread. Gardner tumbles into the ocean, but Nathaniel and Kendra arrive just in time to pull him out. On the shore, Gardner realizes that Nathaniel is his father. The death of Sarah had crushed Nathaniel, driving him into seclusion and guilt. They rush Gardner to the nearest NASA hub and launch him into space. Nathaniel, using his flight simulator training, pilots the aircraft into zero gravity just in time. Gardner wakes up, and thanks to everyone's efforts, they save him. The next day, they send Gardner back to Mars. He says his final goodbyes to Kendra and Tulsa. This time, Nathaniel accompanies him to Mars to be a real father to Gardner. Meanwhile, Kendra and Tulsa decide to live together. Under Kendra's guidance, Tulsa begins training as an astronaut, hoping to visit Gardner on Mars someday.